Welcome back to Mysterious Goings On. Well, you know, sometimes when man looks at his feet and sees nothing but dust, and then looks up and around him and sees nothing but calamity, it's time for him to look at the stars. And that, my friends, is what we're going to do today. We are going to welcome back a previous guest on the show. Michael Zuffa is joining us. And hello, Michael. He was on the show a few years ago talking about Star Trek. You know, you people who listen to this show regularly know that I love Trek and I have very strong opinions about it. But I love talking about it with fellow fans. And we had definitely talked about the original series movies at this point, where we left off a few years ago. And of course, with an abundance of time in front of a lot of us, Michael and I just connected again, and he said, "Hey, man, let's get going. We still got movies to do." And I was like, "You're right." So today, in this episode, I thought if you're a Trek fan, great. If you're not, you might listen anyway, because we're going to talk about the Star Trek The Next Generation series of movies, these films that were not on TV, but the theatrical films that were made. There's a lot of interest about it right now, of course, because Sir Patrick Stewart has returned to the fold with the new TV series Picard, which has just wrapped up as of today's recording its first season, and it's already been greenlit for a second season. I might add, by the way, and I'll try to remember to put this in the show notes, that if you're listening in 2020, March or April of 2020, the series is free on CBS All Access. There's a gift code you can use. Sir Pat Stew made sure that everybody could go to CBS All Access. So I believe not only can you see Picard, but I believe you can see Discovery and some of the other programs that are available. But I'll put a link in the show notes for you on that. But welcome back, Michael. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. Living the dream.
Living the dream, yeah. Are you, just real quick, and we don't have to get into this now because we're talking TNG movies, but are you watching Picard by any chance?
I told my wife before it started, I said, I don't watch much TV. I told her, I said, those bastards at CBS, you know, they do this Picard show, so naturally I'm in. I said, I'm going to sign up so we can watch it day one and watch it weekly. And then as soon as it's done, you know, we'll cancel it. So later tonight, it'll probably be canceled on my end. And I said, in that 10-week span, we need to squeeze in 2 seasons of Discovery, because I didn't feel really the need to drop money for that. Initially, you know, so, we also squeezed those in the mini treks, and, yeah, so I'm all caught up except for this last episode here of, Picard.
Oh, so you have seen it all. Do you just have any general comments without giving away the game? Because I'd love to have you back to talk in depth, but how did you feel about Discovery?
Of Discovery or Picard?
Discovery.
I had read some things going into it that bothered me. Say, I'm a stickler for continuity and canon. And there was a lot of things I read going into it that made me just shake my head. You know, Spock has a sister. Yeah. This highly advanced spore drive. I don't recall hearing about any of this stuff before, right? But I can say that I was vaguely aware of what was happening on the show as it went along, even though I wasn't watching it. And knowing, before I started it, I knew how season 2 ended. Mm-hmm. And again, without spoilers, it made me like, okay, made me say to myself, okay, I can deal with this knowing how season 2 ends, because in a way it kind of explains things.
It kind of does. Yeah. Kind of.
Yeah. I mean, it gives a reason why we haven't heard of things.
Right.
Certain things. So that made it easier for me to enjoy the show, as opposed to sitting there every week thinking, or every episode thinking, this shouldn't be. Why is this like this? You know, so that helped, I guess.
Yeah, you mean the way I watched it.
Yeah. I won't say it's great, but I will say I found myself enjoying it more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
As to whether or not it's Star Trek show. I mean, that's a show we can, a thing we can discuss down the road, perhaps.
All right. Well,
overall, I enjoyed it. I won't say it's great though.
Okay. Yeah, I'm of the same mind. Well, we'll say that.
There are things I thought were really solid about it though. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Namely Captain Pike, but we can get into into that. Right. Okay. Well, let's get into, so the TNG, what happened. So the Star Trek films, with the original cast, they were, let's face it, they were late 50s, 60s, 70s, in age, depending on the cast member. By the time Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country did well, it was a nice sign off. They literally signed their names at the end of the movie in the credits, and that was going to be the end. But they decided that at the 7th year of TNG that they needed to start the TNG crew into a series of films. And the bright idea was to have a bridge between the original series characters in the movies and the Next Generation characters in the movies. So we get Star Trek Generations, which Picard enlists the help of Kirk, who is presumed long dead but flourishes in an extra-dimensional realm, from preventing Malcolm McDowell from destroying a star and its populated planetary system in an attempt to enter that realm. The film also included the original crew members Scotty and Chekhov. So this film, in a nutshell, we have Picard and Kirk teaming up, and what should have been like it should have been like the first like Avengers movie where they all assemble. You know, it should have been this really killer vibe, and you bringing all the crews together, but.
You saying that didn't happen?
I don't think so, buddy. From what I saw is there's two things that immediately at the remove I am now, 20 plus years later, is what was the big hard on to kill off Kirk for? Why did we have to kill him in the first place?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer for you there. Maybe to give him closure, I guess.
Yeah.
That would be my guess.
But they kind of shot themselves in the foot doing that, because, I mean, you got James Doohan he did an episode of TNG. You got, McCoy, D. Kelly did an episode of TNG. There was talk, I believe, of a Chekhov appearance on TNG that did not happen. But then you look and you see all the way up to the Kelvin timeline, Leonard Nimoy returns. And it's just like William Shatner is just chomping at the bit to be doing the same thing as Lenny, and he couldn't because he was dead. It's just like, it seems so incredibly short-sighted to kill him off for what I thought was some cheap.
Outside of that, he kind of just went out like a little bitch.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not a great death.
No. Now, original...
they try to make it feel, it was fun, but yeah, it was unremarkable.
Because the original film death scene they shot, he gets shot in the back by Soren.
Yeah.
And test audiences did not like that. So they reshot it where basically he fell off of a scaffolding, a bridge, and instead of dying on the bridge, he died under a bridge. Haha. And the guy should have died on a bridge. He should, the original opening of the movie, where he does actually die. He does die on a ship. He saves a ship. Mm-hmm. That's how, in my opinion, Jim Kirk would die.
Right. But did he die really? Because he was in the Nexus. So isn't he still kind of in the Nexus?
Yeah. I guess he's not really dead. Yeah.
I mean, it's all kind of mushy there because, Guinan was in the Nexus, even though she wasn't in the Nexus.
That's true. That's true.
And really, ultimately, doesn't that mean Soren is still in the Nexus somewhere too? He got what he wanted, essentially.
True.
Or did he? I don't know.
He seemed pretty pissed off at the end, like he didn't, but who knows, that whole concept was terrible. I think, and actually Ron Moore and Braga, who wrote it, they both have admitted many times since then that it was terrible and they did a really crappy job. They were under so much pressure to do this, and they were younger writers and they were good writers, but they were under all this pressure. And of course the studios wanted all this thing. And I imagine the studios just said, okay, we want Kirk to die. We want Patrick Stewart to look really cool. We want this. We want this. We want this. They probably had so many masters to please. I just think it was really tough for them.
And it's my understanding, I could be wrong here, but they wrapped up All Good Things, the last episode of The Next Generation, and almost immediately went right into this.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the sets They were touched up a little bit, but they were TV sets. So a lot of it doesn't look as great as it could.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you noticed this, but a few times when Picard's in his ready room and someone's at the door, it's like somebody turned off all the lights on the bridge. It's pitch black behind him. And it's like, well, what's going on there?
I had never noticed that.
Yeah, look. I think when he's talking to Riker, a couple times it's pitch black behind him.
Now, some of the lighting, like when they go to the Amagosa Observatory, I thought the lighting job they did in like 10 Forward and all that, and
yes.
I thought was exceptional, to be honest with you.
Yes.
But is that because the sets were trying to cover up the sets?
I don't know. I mean, that's part of the reason they destroyed the Enterprise, because then they could, build a set, that's going to look exceptional on the big screen.
You know what? I never put that together ever. Thank you. That's a new revelation for me. I never thought of that. Now, here's the other thing. At the beginning, so you had Chekhov and Scotty with Kirk. Basically, they're breaking the bottle on a new Enterprise, and
right. And they were supposed to be Spock and McCoy, but Leonard Nimoy was like, "That's a nothing role. I'm not doing it."
Right.
And I don't know what the deal was with McCoy, but and they are kind of nothing roles. They it's fan service.
And McCoy was D. Kelly was ill. He didn't die too terribly long after that, a few years. And but it's so funny when you watch it. Look at the dialogue. They didn't really even change the dialogue.
I know.
It's like you could see it's like I'm watching it. I'm like, why is Chekhov going to sickbay? What? Why is Scotty saying? Scotty's doing just imagining Spock saying, "Is there something wrong with your chair, Captain?" I mean, it's
right.
It's funny. So and then I think that the Next Generation stuff, let's just talk on that for a second. The aspects of that, I must admit, I think Stewart handled the death scene of getting the news of the death of his brother and his nephew. And by the way, folks, these movies have been around a long time, so if you're mad at us for spoiling it, sorry. But I thought that scene was very well done. And I thought
absolutely
he was he's so great. The sailing ship thing, I mean, that was visually interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess there are moments that are good. I must say, I found when Brent Spiner's character Data got his emotion chip, I found him so grating. And I don't know. How did you feel about that?
It's funny. I remember I saw that in college. A bunch of us went to see it like opening weekend. And that was, I rediscovered Next Generation in college. So there was a lot of love there. And I enjoyed the movie thoroughly. And it wasn't till, repeat viewings that it diminished some, you know how it is.
Yes.
Was it the immediacy effect or whatever? I like Data so much, so it's hard for me to talk crap about him. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I like that they tried to give Brent Spiner some room to, emote.
Sure.
Since he hadn't been doing it for 7 years, basically.
Right.
I like this story idea. I like the emotion chip.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the execution in hindsight was not the greatest.
Yeah. It didn't gel well for me, but I get what you're saying. And, Spiner was arguably number 2 on the series and, behind
Absolutely.
Stewart.
And he clearly was in the movies.
Yeah.
I mean, every single movie he was number 2.
Even behind, if did he even get billing? Or did he get billing? Sometimes did Frakes get billing?
I think he did.
Oh.
I think he did.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'd have to look, but maybe not in his First Generations one, but I'm sure in like First Contact.
Well, he had like Stewart, he had a producer credit towards the end, which Frakes was directing, so he didn't necessarily have producing credit. So really, they were the big 3, and everybody else was kind of the supporting. But anyway, so. I mean, there's a lot we could unpack here, but we're just going to touch on each movie. And I don't mean to gripe about everything, and I don't want to set up just a gripe session about every movie, because there were aspects, as I said, of the film I enjoyed.
Well, here's the thing, Alex. I absolutely love all the Star Trek movies, even the ones I hate.
That's the best. That's the best.
I think a real fan can acknowledge that a movie or episode of the TV show isn't perfect, but somehow we love it because of it, right?
That's a great point.
Every time I watch to switch franchises here, every time I watch Star Wars, I chuckle when the stormtrooper hits his head on the blast door. It's part of what the show is.
You're right.
And if is this the one Data's singing about the little life forms? He's scanning for life forms. It's so bad, but I kind of love it, in its own way. Noticing that there's no lights on in the bridge, I love that. It's a problem with the film, but I've seen it enough times that it's part of what it is. So my point is, I think you got to be able to talk about the negatives, right? And appreciate and embrace the negatives of stuff you love, right?
But it's out of love. It's out of love.
Right.
When I get angry about it, or not angry, but when I get I've been angry a few times over the years over ZoofTrek, but when I get upset about it or I get negative about it, it's because I love it so much. I want it to be, it's like, do better.
Right. I mean, certainly at some point, I'm sure we'll talk about the reboot trilogy, and then we can talk about some anger, a little better. I'm looking at you, Into Darkness.
Or as I call it, Into Dog Mess.
Something.
Yeah.
But that's for another day, right?
It is. How about this? Why don't we just roll so let's say Generations. Hey, I'm going to spring this on you. If you, even though you just said, look, I love them all, and even if I hate them, let's do this. Let's do 1 to 4 pips, shall we? That's the rank pips.
Shit.
Come on now. I'm going to give Generations. I'll start. And if you don't want to play, you don't have to, but I'm going to do it. 1 to 4 pips. I'm going to give maybe I should do 5. No, there was only 4. Let's do 5.
There's only 4.
There's only 4.
There's only 4 pips.
All right. All right. 1 to 4 pips. I'm going to give it 2 pips.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
I'd say it's not the worst of the bunch.
No. And in fact, it's not even the next one's definitely not the worst of the bunch. And that's Star Trek First Contact, which came around in 1996, about 2 years later after Generations. And basically the plot, after a failed attempt to assault Earth, the Borg attempt to prevent first contact between humans and Vulcans by interfering with Zephram Cochrane's warp test in the past. Picard must confront the demons which stem from his assimilation into the collective, which, by the way, is a huge part of Picard these days, as he leads the new Enterprise E, as Michael mentioned, back through time to ensure the test and subsequent meeting with the Vulcans take place. This is the first of 2 films directed by Commander Riker himself, Jonathan Frakes.
Mm-hmm.
Take it away, man. What are your thoughts on it?
I think this is the best of the bunch.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to all be grateful that the Borg chose to wait till they were right by Earth to go back in time, and not go back in time, light years away and then hit Earth, because then we'd be all screwed, right?
Yeah, true.
See, this is the nitpicking that true fans can appreciate, right? Right. Because really, if they're not waiting till the last minute, game over, man. Game over. This movie is great. It's certainly more of an action movie.
Yeah.
And I like so much about. I mean, there's so much to love about this. Cromwell as Cochrane.
Oh, so good.
Data with the Borg Queen.
Oh yeah.
Heck, even Geordi and Barclay's interactions with Cochrane on Earth. Worshipping him to some degree. It's all great. Alfred Woodard is great.
Love her.
Patrick Stewart, gets to be an action hero. He has some dramatic monologues. A line must be drawn here. This far, no further. It's got everything.
It's got a great antagonist. You got the Borg are although it's strange because the Borg collective, the idea of a queen was like, well, wait, there's aren't they all equal a hive mind? But apparently there's a queen, and she was that Alice Krige who did that. She was fantastic,
Krieg, yeah.
And so that was great. They also is this when they brought in the new uniform colors and changes? Is that right? Or am I wrong?
I believe there was some a little bit of each.
Oh, there was. Okay.
They were doing a little bit of each. They had, depending on the scene they were, it was an amalgam between, what we were used to on the TV show and what Deep Space Nine was doing at the time.
Well, did you?
Which would, and I know, Frakes, Jonathan Frakes wore Avery Brooks's uniform.
They were so damn cheap. They made him wear.
How the hell does that happen?
Oh my God! I mean, he had to roll the sleeves up. Didn't he roll the sleeves up a little bit or something?
Probably.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, I think that's inexcusable. By the way,
I would agree. I would agree with that.
So cheap.
But yeah, it was kind of like I said, it was kind of like, a transition phase, I guess. I guess when Star Trek switches uniforms, there's they have a time frame. They don't want to just go cold turkey. That might be too jarring.
Yeah. Yeah. And they've got to always, every movie's got to have a new stamp on it. It's like every new Batman movie, the costume has to change. It's just,
yeah.
I thought that the special effects were excellent. I liked how Counselor Troy finally made her transition from being like this weird space alien Brooklyn accent into a British accent, by the way. I think Marina Sirtis just gave up and said, I'm not doing it anymore. And she started sounding like Jane Leaves from Frasier. I remember thinking that. I was like, what? Okay. But I liked her better, though. That's the thing. I liked her a lot better at that point.
And she was a little more humanized too, getting drunk and hanging out with
with Z.
Yeah.
And I thought this film was this is kudos to Frakes. I thought of course he wasn't cinematographer, but he was the director. I thought the film was shot very well. I thought the colors were pretty rich. I thought that it was appealing to the eye. I thought there was some detail, here. I may be wrong. This is just my take, but I thought it was shot very well. I thought it was paced very well. I think Frakes really, especially, compare him to like Nimoy, who, Star Trek 3 was not a great film. It has its moments, but it's not a great film.
Right.
But here's Frakes with his first feature film, and he just knocks it out of the park. So I felt really good about that. And I remember leaving the theater saying, I want to see this again.
Right. And we should also talk about Mr. Michael Dorn, who's on leave from Deep Space Nine in this movie. They got to give him credit for finding ways for him to show up for the films.
Tough little ship.
Yeah.
Little.
Apparently the Defiant was supposed to be destroyed in the movie too, but Deep Space Nine people were like, nah, we kind of need that.
Oh my God. Really? They really were going to do that?
Yeah.
Well, I guess of course in DS9 they actually did destroy the Defiant once, but it may have been also them saying, hey, look, man, we're loaning you Dorn and we're loaning you the Defiant. You ain't going to blow it up, all right?
Right.
You better return with a full tank of dilithium crystals and the keys, all right? Tell you what. But I thought that it was it's a well-paced, it's just a fun movie. And it is, in my opinion, I agree with you, it is the best out of all of them. I think that...
And I would even say by far it's the best.
Yeah, by far it is. And I would say it's also, it's in my top 3 or 4 overall Star Trek films. But
yes, it's very rewatchable, and I think it's easily accessible to non-Trek fans as well.
Yeah, definitely. You don't have to know everything about it to just have fun with it. It's really well done. So I'm going to give this one 4 pips.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Across the board, man. Here we are arguing and fighting like people expect. No, we're not at all, are we? Oh, well. Well, maybe we will here, because next thing comes in 1998, 2 more years later, just like clockwork, another film, Star Trek Insurrection. Now,
maybe they should have waited 3 years.
Maybe it was underdone. Profoundly disturbed by what he views as a blatant violation of the Prime Directive, Picard deliberately interferes with the Starfleet Admiral's plan to relocate a relatively small but seemingly immortal population from a mystical planet to gain control of the planet's natural radiation, which has been discovered to have substantial medicinal properties. However, the Admiral himself is a pawn in his alien partner's mission of vengeance.
Hate when that happens.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, man. This is where, I think prior to this, Starfleet admirals and commodores were usually just either incompetent or a pain in the butt. And this one played by Anthony Zerbe, who I love. He's one of my favorite character actors. He seemed to have good intentions, but it got away from him. I think.
Something about the road to hell is paved with that.
Well, indeed. Yeah, that's true. Yes, the Stargates.
Perhaps he was outmatched by is that Rolfo? Is that how you said it?
Yeah, Rolfo. Yeah.
Clearly a smarter character and a manipulator.
Yeah, played by the great Oscar nominee F. Murray Abraham. Or was he an Oscar winner? He won, didn't he? F. Murray Abraham. He did win for Amadeus. Yeah,
Amadeus.
He has been quoted as saying he enjoyed the hell out of this role and loved being on Star Trek and would do it again, which is hilarious. Mm-hmm. But I actually thought his character was interesting and fun, and I thought the makeup was really kind of creepy and cool.
Yeah.
But I think this one, and I'll just drop this on you and step back and see what you think. I think this one, you kind of nailed it. I think this one was I think it was rushed out. I think it was underwritten, not terribly imaginative, and it would, if it was an episode on the TV series, it's one I'd skip if it was on reruns.
See, that's the thing. We came out of it. My wife said it felt like a TV episode.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time saying, well, they can't save the galaxy every time.
Right.
Which is true.
True.
But as repeat viewings, this definitely feels like just extended TV episode.
Yeah, and I get pretty worn out pretty fast by the scenes with the kid and Data. It doesn't appeal to me. I'm not interested in that. And why does Data have to regress in every film?
Yeah.
But the opening of it now, when Data he's lost his mind early, in the scene where he's got the little the duck blind and the invisibility cloak on, and then he breaks out of it and there's his head and then he's like this scary, he's kind of scary, right. But then they have to do, was it Gilbert and Sullivan singing or something? And I'm like, why?
That always wins me over. I don't know about you, but when friends start singing that, it pulls me out of my, drunken haze or whatever.
It's just always because I think it's because Brent, is a singer and just wants to show off his pipes, and I'm just like,
so does Patrick Stewart, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I just thought, this is cornball. But you do get some interesting stuff there. There's some interesting stuff here that stands out to me. I like seeing the captain's yacht, which we've never seen before.
Yes.
I like that, which I believe is named the Cousteau. I don't think it's told there, but I
believe you are correct, sir.
Yeah. See, every now and then I know one, but I like that. Although here we go again. You can just see Patrick Stewart's fingerprints all over that too, where he's like, I want to be the action hero again.
Yeah.
And it's like, geez. It's weird. If you go from 7 years of this sensitive, thoughtful, true intellectual captain who his first impulse is never to fire a phaser or throw a punch. But then you get in the movies and he's like trying to be Shatner. It's weird.
Yeah, kind of. But he's more believable than Shatner.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. I mean, he was very good. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And the movie also puts Riker and Troy back on the path to being together. That's one good thing that comes out of that. Although I didn't. Does he shave his beard in this movie too?
He does. Yeah, it's soft as an android's bottom.
Yeah, that's. Yeah.
Because they started making out, and she's like, "Ew," because she hadn't kissed him with the beard.
That's right.
Yeah, and so he did.
But that's a good thing that comes out of this movie.
True.
I think.
Yeah, it's nice to see.
And that plays forward into Picard. Certainly, 20 plus years later.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, of course. We'll get to the
spoilers.
The opening of the next movie, definitely. But so just to kind of wrap this one up, I guess folks listening are going, well, they're not saying a whole lot about it because there's just not a lot about it that's interesting. No. Donna Murphy is a perfectly great actress who did her best with a thankless role, I think.
Yes, I liked her. I liked her in this. Why did Picard not ever go back to her?
I don't know. I would have. But
I was not familiar with her before this.
She's done a lot of Broadway work, I know.
And since then, I guess, of course, she played Dr. Octopus's wife in Spider-Man 2.
That's right.
And I'm like, I know who that is, and I would like her. I got a lot of goodwill for her out of this movie. Say what you want about the movie. I liked her a lot.
I liked her a lot too. Do you know what my favorite scene of the whole movie is, though? It's when Geordie is watching a sunrise.
Oh yeah,
with his real eyes.
Yeah.
Did it not resonate with you at all, or
I forgot. It's been a while since I've seen this one, but I do. So it's not Spock. It's not Worf getting acne.
No, the gorge. Okay. Oh my god.
But that is great with Geordie.
His eyes regenerated. Of course, it didn't last after they left, but for once he got to see everything.
Yeah, that kind of sucks for him.
But did you see what it? But didn't that? But that was a good thing, because then I believe LeVar Burton finally got his wish. He says, "I'm not wearing that darn banana clip anymore. You give me some robot eyes. I'm not wearing that visor anymore."
Right.
That visor. Ugh, yeah, that got old. Okay, well let us leave the Baku and the Sunna. I will say Greg Henry playing the other F. Murray Abraham's friend and right arm. I always liked him. I think he's a good actor. He was really good in. Excuse me. He was really good in that. He's been good in a lot of things anyway. I won't rack my brain, but he's a pretty solid character actor. Does all right. He plays a lot of good villains, but I thought he made things work even under that makeup, which is no mean feat.
Right. That, especially that makeup, was not very friendly to expressive.
He did so much with his eyes.
Yeah.
You know, and it was funny too, real quick, that the extra aliens that were on the bridge of the Sona ship, it was just this rogues gallery. It was like, okay, everybody who didn't make the final cut from the Star Wars bar scene, please report to Star Trek Insurrection. Thank you. I mean, one of them is like this cat-looking woman who I was like, is this Josie and the Pussycats? What do we got here? I don't know. Anyway, that's a minor thing. So anyway, let's just get down to it. On the 4-pip scale for Insurrection, I'm going to let you start. You decide. You tell me where you go.
Can we do 1.5?
Okay. So it's like a lieutenant junior grade.
Yes, for me, it's definitely under Generations, but as with any of these movies, I can get something out of them when I'm watching them. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
This would not be my go-to if I, said, "Hey, I'm going to watch a Star Trek movie." This is not one I would pick out. This one's more likely to show up if I'm watching a bunch of them. And,
right.
It provides a through line too. Well, I'd say better things, but maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. It is better. No, well, we'll talk about Nemesis.
I'll go ahead and give it 2. I'll give it 2. The extra half is for Donna Murphy and for
and
Greg
F. Murray
Henry.
Abraham.
That guy. I mean, come on, man. He hams it up, but he's fun to watch. So and I like Anthony.
He's fun to watch. He is fun to watch, like Christopher Plummer is fun to watch in Star Trek 6.
Absolutely.
Although I would argue Christopher Plummer is much better. Because he was a better character and he had much more to work with.
Oh yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, but that's the same vein of performance and I think enjoyment the actors are getting out of what they're doing.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. I think so. So we'll give it 2 pips. It's to me, it's a full lieutenant to senior grade. Okay, that leads us to 2002, which is about a 4-year. Or so, 3 or 4 year break there for Star Trek Nemesis, the final TNG cast movie, where a clone of Picard played by Bane himself, Tom Hardy, in his first major role, created by the Romulans, assassinates the Romulan Senate, assumes absolute power, and lures Picard and the Enterprise to Romulus under the false pretext of a peace overture. This one starts out kind of cool with... I like the opening credits and the music, I will say. Mm-hmm. And then I like the original scene in the Romulan Senate, although the Romulan Senate does look a little, in retrospect, looks a little chintzy, but
cheap.
It looks very cheap. But I liked that scene where everybody is killed by the radiation. But man, this movie, wow. We're talking about Patrick Stewart still pushing the action hero thing. He's driving a dune buggy around, picking up pieces of Data's long lost brother, another one. It's not Lore, it's B4. You
get it, Alex, because he came before.
Yeah. That's
Data.
so.
Did you catch that?
That's so clever. My goodness. So they have that. I mean, this movie's a mess in so many ways. It's kind of stealing some plot lines from Star Trek 2.
Yes, this is Star Trek 2 for the next generation. Clearly with Data's death and possible rebirth, which we never see, obviously.
Yeah.
Also, and I think what's his name? Shinzon is kind of a Khan stand-in. Mm-hmm. Is that a good word? Mm-hmm. Stand-in for him. But unlike Khan, there's nothing. He has no. There's nothing. It's not building off something.
Yeah.
Which went a long way with Khan, but they try to. I don't know, make him up to be this big, let's say nemesis. Yeah. And, he does what he can with the part, but the character is he doesn't have any presence really.
Well, it's stupid. I mean, why, let's just say it. Why do we need a clone of Picard? And who's to say he would still look that much? I mean, fine. Let's accept that he'll look like him. But why they would need a clone of one captain of the Starfleet to make this? That's stupid. The thing that really, really took me out of the movie, though, it's a little thing. When Picard's looking at an old picture of himself from the Academy and he's bald.
Well, how is he going to know it's him?
But that's the point, isn't it? That is the freaking point, isn't it? They think we're so stupid, or they just thinking people who don't know Star Trek won't get it, so he has to look bald. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. That's the only way we'll know it's Picard.
So
is because he's bald.
It's just insultingly stupid. And so, part of the problem with this one too, besides the script, which John Logan, who allegedly was a great writer because he did Gladiator, it was also, by the way, a self-avowed Star Trek fan, but he wrote this, but he had a lot of input from Spiner, I believe I read, and Stewart, but they took the directing chair away from Frakes after Insurrection, like that was his fault, and they gave it to Stuart Baird, who is basically a very, very good editor, but by all accounts, not much of a director.
I'm looking at his director credits here. Executive Decision was a good movie.
Yeah.
U.S. Marshals was an okay movie.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, he hasn't directed a thing theatrically since Nemesis in 2002.
Yeah, it killed his directing career, and but I understand that they felt like they owed him this for the success of those other movies, and they used it as a bargaining chip, and they took it away from Frakes. But the thing is, I've read about the behind the scenes. I've heard from LeVar Burton. He said they called him Laverne. He didn't. Stuart Baird proudly said he'd never watched the show, didn't want to watch the show. He was going to put his own stamp on it. It was a tense set. People were upset. They didn't like the script. They didn't like him. And it shows. It's just, it's a shame because there are aspects of it that are great. The Enterprise E to me is a very elegant, beautiful ship. I love watching it.
Yeah. Definitely.
But aside from the beauty shots of the Enterprise E, the rest of it insults my intelligence so much, I just don't enjoy it.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And this is another one I haven't probably seen this one in 10, 11 years.
I actually own it on DVD because
I do too.
Yeah.
I got them all on Blu-ray.
Oh, yeah.
Even Into Darkness.
Oh, I don't have that one. I have the original Star
Trek. I have it because it's Star Trek.
You're a completist. I get it. And I respect that. And that's the one I won't own. That's the one that sent me over the edge. I went on
that's when we'll have a good conversation about it because I hate it with the Passion of a Thousand Suns.
Oh man, we may need a whole hour just for that particular film. But okay, so what is the, okay, you got to tell me, search your memory. What's the best part of Nemesis for you? There's got to be something good.
I guess I would go to Data's death, that whole scene. There was, he giving his life for his captain. Be honest with you, Data was maybe my favorite character from Next Generation.
Right.
So, it's sad to see him go, regardless of, anything else about this movie. It was sad to see him go. And quite frankly, they did very much set it up to bring him back in some way in B4.
With B4.
And even though I could see, from minute one that this movie was basically, Wrath of Khan, I was okay. I was looking forward to him coming back.
Yeah.
But apparently, and I don't know if you're aware of this, movies have to do well to warrant sequels.
Yeah.
And I'm looking here, and it cost $67.3 to make, and it only made $60 million. So that's,
wait, is that reversed? Is that reversed? The budget was $60 million.
Yes, and I'm sorry, the box office was 67. Yeah, so it made 7, but the budget doesn't include all the marketing and whatnot. And even at this, Star Trek should do better.
Star Trek, and historically, Star Trek up until the Kelvin movies, but still, Star Trek does not do well outside the North America anyway. It does okay. Yeah. It's not something that the European, Asian, or African audiences go for.
Right.
So, But yeah, you're right.
I think it should do better than this, but I think it did what it deserved.
It did. Yeah, me too. And to me, the special effects were the best part of it. But the script is dumb, insulting to the intelligence. The characters I think the actors look pretty bored. I don't think this is the way things would work too if two ships crash into each other. Something about that doesn't quite feel right. That's true. Although it's a cool looking scene. Although then you got another dumb scene, flying a fighter through the hallways of a ship.
Yeah.
It's just, come on, guys. It's that is the problem. But that is what's wrong with these movies in general. The ones that every time they try to make Star Trek into an action movie franchise, it hollows it out and it falls apart. That's my opinion. Right. In general. I mean, there's some successes, but in general, it's not an action franchise.
I would agree.
Well, let's. I'm going to give. There's one pip for me on this one, just because it's a movie.
I agree.
But I will. You made a good point about the budget. So let's work our way back. So $67 million on a $60 million budget is terrible for Insurrection or for Nemesis. So Insurrection had a $70 million budget with a $117.8 million box office. Respectable, but not great.
Right.
Starting a trend. But then you go to First Contact, $45 million budget. It raked in $146 million.
Yeah.
And then, do you have Generations in front of you?
I'm trying to pull it up. There we go. And for Generations, I'm showing a budget of $35 million and $118 million box office.
Yeah. So that's you made the point. This is how things end. Watch your futures end when you don't have any good box office, and that's why so this ended, and then Enterprise on television ended abruptly after 4 years, and there was no Trek for a while.
Yeah,
and then it was the Kelvin universe, which is where you and I will pick it up next time. But
so let me say this quickly.
Sure, please.
Something without getting too into it. The show, it didn't get the ending that the original series got, right? I mean, they had a good send off,
right?
And I will say again, regardless of anything, overreaching thoughts on Picard is giving me some of this resolution feeling for the Next Generation, with appearances by cast members, and even just seeing Picard in his older days. It's hitting the sweet spot there.
Yeah, well, the fan service buttons are being pressed. The issue I will have is that sometimes to me it's a bit manipulative, but I cannot tell you that Okay, this is a bit of a spoiler, folks. Sorry, but seeing Will Riker bear hug Picard, I mean
that was my that has been my favorite episode of Picard so far.
Totally.
And it was just watching them sit around and catch up to some extent.
Having some pizza, man. No, it's cool. But I just kept thinking, and he says the line, because I was like, God, Riker kind of retired young, but he's a reservist, so hint, hint.
And there was reasons given,
True, they had a really rough thing happen. So
yeah.
But anyway, we'll get to that. Tell you what, though. So let's go back for a second, real quick, as we're wrapping up here. If you compare the 6.5 original series movies with the 4.5 or 3.5 TNG movies, is there a clear favorite, or are they about equal, or what do you think?
For me, it's not even really close, because even like I said, I wouldn't go to something like Insurrection or necessarily Nemesis, just to watch on its own. But I can honestly say I would go to something like, Final Frontier just to watch on its own. I would. And that's not the best, certainly, of those movies, but, it's just something about, maybe it's because I've seen all these movies so many times.
It's got some great moments. Star Trek 5 has some great moments. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah. No, it's just, I've seen all those movies so many times. Again, the good stuff and the bad, I find myself enjoying it, even the stupid stuff,
Oh, sure.
So yeah, no, definitely it would be the original series movies, yeah, and it's not even really close, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. Same. You and I agree on way more stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And of the Next Generation movies, really, First Contact's the only one that, would rank alongside those.
Yeah,
for me.
Yeah, definitely. And even with adjusted dollars, it still wasn't the with adjusted dollars, which film actually has grossed the most out of all Star Trek films?
No.
The Star Trek motion picture.
Really?
I believe that's true. I will. You can fact check me. I may be wrong, but I believe I heard that from Inglorious Treksperts. That now that film, by the way, I don't know if you listen to them, but man, the director's cut of motion picture is still it's such a pleasure for me. To me, that is the only, out of all these films we've already covered, before we get into the Kelvin movies, to me that is the only Star Trek movie that looks like a movie. Totally. It's a film. It's a theatrical, cinematic experience.
It's the rest of the picture. They put it in the title, Alex.
Exactly.
Star Trek, the motion picture.
See, that's why I do these with you, because you
not the movie, not the film, the motion
picture. You totally nailed it, man.
Pretentious asshole.
I'm telling you. But you know what? It's funny.
But it is. You're right.
The TV unit handled everything after that at Paramount, Star Trek 2 through 6, and it shows in so many of those movies. But anyway, we're not here to recover that ground. My friend, this has been a fun conversation, and I'd love to have you back down the road here this year and talk about this again. If anybody wants to argue with you online, are you on Twitter or something?
I've been known to tweet on occasion.
Yeah.
At ZoofSter, ZOOFSTER. Actually,
good.
I'm on Instagram on the same thing. That's pretty much my handle.
Lots of Yorkie pics. And and you're a huge reader. My God, you're a most voracious reader.
Too.
Yeah.
I've read a book or two.
Dude, this guy reads listeners, this guy reads so much.
At this point in end of March 2020, I've got, I believe, 28 books under my belt.
Wow. Well, God bless you.
That's a story for another podcast.
It is. And
I am constantly rereading Stephen King.
Yeah, you're a constant
in audio book form. So that's always there. I would love to talk about that.
Well, you would have to lead that conversation. I've read a lot of it, but you're the master when it comes to that stuff. So maybe we'll do that down the road. But that's kind of how we met, though. I've written a few books, and Michael's been kind enough to read and review them and share people information. Thank you so much. And by the way, if anybody cares, hard at work on the next book, the next pilot.
What's it going to be called?
You know I'm not going to tell you yet, but...
Okay. When's it going to be out?
This is so funny. I got a text.
I'm putting the screws to you, man.
I got a text the other day from one of my readers. Her name is Tony. She is retired, and she's read all of them. And anyway, she and I connected, and she has my number. So she texted me. She says, "When is the next book coming?" I think people are stuck at home and they want to read. So before you can say anything, let me say this to you. Sure.
If you're not absolutely sure about it, don't say anything.
Yeah, I don't want to upset people. That's for sure. I don't want people mad.
Better to talk in vagaries like within the next year or
it'll
next
definitely,
year or two.
Well,
but don't throw down a November or
Halloween
like
date. I have been late a few times, I'll admit. But I tell you what, knock on wood and Lord willing, and my health holds. There's no reason in the world I can't have this book ready by the end of summer. I know. I just screwed myself over. I do. But
I mean, I was going to say, just because I tell you shouldn't say it doesn't mean I'm not going to be asking you about it.
Well,
on a bi-weekly basis.
It's listen, a guy who reads.
Is it going to be a full-length novel? Or
yes.
Okay.
And that's part of the deal. This is where I'll get in trouble, because in my mind, and the way I've mapped it out as much as I do, this is not even going to be like one of my 230 pagers. This one's going to be a significantly longer book. So there's a lot going on here. Well, I don't know how you feel about it, but a lot of people told me that this Mr. Nice guy is interesting to them. And my editor is like, oh my gosh, I think you have found a rejuvenating factor in this series that was starting to flag a little bit. I mean, I'm first to admit it. So let's just say that there's some good stuff coming.
Okay, excellent.
All right. Hey, you are so kind to, besides being a friend of my books and my work, which is so rare, but you're so kind of you to take the time to chat with me.
I'm a gosh darn delight.
You are a gosh darn delight, gosh darn it. And tell you what, we will not wait too much longer on this. In fact, I'll talk to you offline about, maybe we'll record about the Kelvin universe next a few weeks from now, and then we'll get that in the pipeline, and we'll just keep talking, and then eventually we'll get through Star Trek and we'll start talking about books. Does that sound good?
Fine by me.
Michael Zuffa, thank you so much for joining me on Mysterious Goings On, and thank you, listeners, for indulging us in our chat about Star Trek. If you're still listening at this point, live long and prosper, and until next time, keep reading.
Wow, how things can change from one week to the next. Hey, hope everybody out there is staying healthy. I know everything is super crazy. We feel disoriented by the COVID-19 virus. It's more important than ever to stay connected and check in with your loved ones. That's why I'm so happy I've got T-Mobile. Listen, T-Mobile isn't just talking the talk. They're taking measures right now to make life easier for everyone by doing the right thing for their customers during this really critical time. For example, T-Mobile has ensured all current customers with data plans have access to unlimited smartphone data on their network for 2 months. We're all in this together. T-Mobile truly believes that. And while many T-Mobile stores are temporarily closed to help keep customers and employees healthy, they've still got you covered with any help you need. Just check out T-Mobile.com. You can see what stores are still open and how you can manage your account online. Stay safe out there. During congestion, customers using more than 50 gigs a month may notice reduced speeds prioritization, video typically at 480p, capable device required. Wow, how things can change from one week to the next. Hey, hope everybody out there is staying healthy. I know everything is super crazy. We feel disoriented by the COVID-19 virus. It's more important than ever to stay connected and check in with your loved ones. That's why I'm so happy I've got T-Mobile. Listen, T-Mobile isn't just talking the talk. They're taking measures right now to make life easier for everyone by doing the right thing for their customers during this really critical time. For example, T-Mobile has ensured all current customers with data plans have access to unlimited smartphone data on their network for 2 months. We're all in this together. T-Mobile truly believes that. And while many T-Mobile stores are temporarily closed to help keep customers and employees healthy, they've still got you covered with any help you need. Just check out T-Mobile.com. You can see what stores are still open and how you can manage your account online. Stay safe out there. During congestion, customers using more than 50 gigs a month may notice reduced speeds prioritization, video typically at 480p, capable device required.